there. Today, I was feeling a little down. So today's video might be all over the place, kind of. But that's okay. That is okay. And I kind of want to talk about how living in a cottage is kind of a mindset in a way. If you really think about it. So I lived in a cottage for 2 years, or maybe it was just a year. No, it was just over 1 year. And it was great. I miss it there a lot. I don't want to get into that, but it's interesting because we healed in that cottage, and so we kind of accumulated a lot of things that we enjoyed as we were healing and as we were able to decorate a little bit, but we've always been like quite thrifty, I would say. But we definitely made that cottage cottagey. And then when now that we live in an apartment, we brought that stuff into the apartment, and our apartment looks cottagey. Like, I don't really think you would realize that this is an apartment necessarily unless you knew. I just don't really think you would know that based off the decor, because we brought our cottagey items into the apartment. And I just think it's kind of a mindset. If you like cottagey decor, any space that you live in will kind of look and feel cottagey. And I think a big aspect of cottage living is the coziness, and something about cottages feel small. And so I guess if you live in like a big house, making your rooms and stuff feel not small cramped, small cozy, you know what I mean? And it is inviting and more intimate, right? And I think that's very doable. I think that's very doable in any space that you live in. I recently cut my hair after it being super, super long, like very long to my butt length. And it was like that for years, and recently cut it. And I saw a TikTok the other day that was like, what is it about millennials that when they cut their hair to like bob length or like shoulder length, that they immediately do this. They immediately do this. And called out. I am called out. But it is just the millennial way, which, I mean, to be fair, I'm technically Gen Z, and over the past few years, I've been definitely identifying more as Gen Z, but I still do a lot of millennial-esque things. Like, I do the millennial pause far more than I ever do the Gen Z shake. And if you don't know what that is, it's essentially like when you hold, like, millennials typically pause before they press play when they record. And there's like a theory behind that it's because we grew up at a time where technology was sort of just developing. And so half the time, I mean, most of the time when you would find some sort of technology that would record, like a camera, or early phones, you would press play and there would always be like a couple second delay. And if you wanted to get your whole sentence out, you had to like wait a second for it to fully be recording to do it, or else you're just gonna have like a huge chunk of what you said cut out. That's at least the theory behind it, and I believe that that's true. So it's just ingrained in us to sort of pause. I always cut it out, and I've been a little bit better about not doing it. But then the Gen Z shake on the opposite end of that spectrum is that when they're holding the camera's always shaky, just like naturally, just like kind of all over the place. And I guess the idea behind that is that they're just hopped up on caffeine and they're kind of sporadic, I guess, is the idea, even though I don't know. I don't know if that's accurate, but it is kind of funny because even my old photos growing up in my teenage years, my hair was always, I had shorter hair sometimes, and my hair was always like this, way parted way on the side. Just funny. And it's something that Gen Xers never understood. They never understood, not necessarily about me, they would never comment about me, but I would hear it frequently from other Gen Xers being like, why do millennials do that? Or like, what is that? They'd be like, it kind of looks like a comb over, and I'm hearing them say that now too, and it's just like, oh my God, like a comb over, ew, what do you mean? No, to me, like, I think through millennial eyes, correct me if I'm wrong if you're a millennial and you see it differently, but this type of thing, when we go like this, it's like windswept beachy. That's the vibe that my eyes see it through. Like Instagram models would always have their hair like long, done up, and they would always be doing this. Always. You know what I mean? Influencers, always. And their hair would be long and kind of like tousled, wavy, but like styled. They always have a stylist, but they would always make sure they could do it on both sides and like, you know what I mean? I've only recently been actually having like a smaller part, never middle. I've tried a middle part before it was cool. And I still was like, it just doesn't suit me. But maybe if I grew up in this era, maybe I would be like, yeah, it suits me, I love it, but I'm not a middle part girly. I think it looks cool on some people, I do, but it's not for me. Anyway, like I said, this video is going to be a little all over the place just because that's kind of how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling a little down. Had a really good rainstorm last night, which definitely made me so happy. Like, I was on the moon. It was really, actually, it was a rainstorm, but it was a lightning and thunderstorm, and the lightning was probably crazier than I've ever seen it in my life. Like, continual flashing for an hour. Continual. Like, it felt like I actually didn't know that it was lightning at first, and I just kept being like, what? Like, seriously, is somebody taking photos, like flash photos outside right now? Is there a car? Like, what is that? Because it was like every couple of seconds, it was like a flash. It was pretty awesome. And then it just rained so hard, and we got to see the lightning go above us and past us. It was pretty spectacular. Just, it felt like, yes, this is the Upper Peninsula that we know and love. Because this winter was so weird all across the United States, including the Upper Peninsula, but typically we have crazy weather here, crazy weather. And I love it. I live for it. I do. Anyway, back to kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I kind of wanted to just talk about how you can make your space cottagey no matter where you live. 1. 2, I also really wanted to share a couple of stories that kind of just showcase, like, sometimes in life you win. Sometimes you win. And no context, just sometimes you win. No, I'll share the context behind that. And do a little bit of show and tell, because my channel has been a little bit of a show and tell. My past videos that I've filmed, I think I've shown an aspect of my life through physical objects. A lot. in my past videos. So that's pretty cool. Did you guys like show and tell when you guys were growing up? I did like it. I actually thought it was so interesting. Like, not just for me to go up there. Actually, that was the part that scared me the most, is me going up there. But I loved, like, seeing what people brought from their house. I was always like, oh my gosh, tell me more. Like, wow, so they have that kind of, all right. Okay, she's got a pet rock. That's cool. All right. I wonder where she found that. Okay. Like, I don't know. Like, wow, she's got a plush Scooby-Doo. Man, I want a plush Scooby-Doo. That's really cool. I don't know. Just like cool stuff. There was a girl who was a kind of, not, I don't want to say obsessed. I feel like that's overplayed, but there was a girl who really loved Scooby-Doo when I was in, I think, 2nd grade, and she brought her plush Scooby-Doo in, and it was so cute of her. Anyway, sometimes you win in life, okay? And one example of that are these coasters, okay? I've got these bird rug coasters. When we moved into the cottage, we moved in with nothing, literally nothing, because we had just suffered from toxic mold. Actually, when I say nothing, I mean every single thing that we owned fit inside of a closet. Everything we owned. So, you know, like everything we owned fit inside of a closet. It was that little that we owned. And so the cottage that we moved into was fully furnished, which was like, when we found out when it was fully furnished, we're like, this is great, like awesome, because you know, we didn't even have couches. I think we thrifted. Yeah, we thrifted a couple cheap, like very cheap chairs. Like I think they were like $10 at the time, and we moved those in. They're kind of small too, so it was pretty great that like it was fully furnished. And it even had some cute little stuff there, like these cute like rug. They're literal rug, pieces of rug with birds on them. Oh, and this one, this is the other bird. I should show them all. Chickadee, another one of those bluebirds, and a cardinal. I mean, come on, the cutest. And when we walked in, I saw those coasters, and I was like, I'm in love. I am so glad that we live here, but I wish those were like actually ours. Of course, I was like, whatever, like they're not ours, but I do wish, and if they, you know, because they're not ours, someday I want to find some that are just like this, because I don't know, I've never thought of rug pieces as coasters. Never once thought of that. And they had little birds. They just were so cute. And I don't know, I just really was obsessed with them. And I had never heard of something like that, never thought of something like that. Couldn't really find anything like that online, especially nothing like that. I don't know who made these, where she found them, you know, I don't know. But I just had that in my thought, in the back of my head while I was living there. I'm like, man, I'm gonna be real sad when we are gone, because we don't own them, and they're for the next tenants. But as time was approaching for us to leave and move on from that cottage, that was a whole story, a whole thing. We didn't want to. We really could have stayed there forever, but forever until we build our dream home. But you know, we were unable to. And it was funny because like the days approaching, our landlord had said like, oh, you can take the, you guys can take the furniture if you want because the next people don't need them and we don't even know where to put them. Like, take them if you want. And we're like, okay, thank you. We actually had like accumulated some stuff at the time, so we're like, thanks. Like in the back of my mind, I was like, thanks. But what about the coasters? But I didn't want to say anything because it's like. It's like a cute decor item. Who doesn't want coasters? Truly. And so I just was like, thank you so much. Like, I appreciated that. And then like the last day, she was like, oh yeah, you actually can take anything. Like by almost like by me saying you can take the couch and stuff, like you can really take anything. Like the next people don't need any of this. And I'm like, what? You mean anything? Like, I don't know why, but those were just on my mind. The coasters all along were on my mind. And it's just funny that out of, anything in there, like that's just where my heart was at. And in the end, we got them. And I just thought that was like such a cool thing of like, wow. And I wasn't even expecting to get them, but we got them. And I love that. And I appreciate that. Another thing, where sometimes you win in the cottage world. And by the way, aren't these so cottagey? I think maybe you could find something like this online. I don't know. You probably could even make something like this. Especially if you went to a carpet installer and you were asking for, my dog wants in. Just a sec. And here she is, the girl of the hour, Sophie. But if you got maybe some samples, some carpet samples from a carpet place and cut them up, maybe sealed the backs, because the backs are sealed with something, and then maybe somehow painted the fronts. I don't know, but I'm sure there is a way to DIY this. I'd be interested. I don't have much coffee left. I've been back on the coffee kick, guys. I've been back on. Although this is not much. It's not very strong, this one. I made it very weak. Just because. So, you could do something like that. And I do really like these coasters. I really do, obviously. And I think it would be kind of a fun DIY project, honestly, to figure out how to make a cute coaster like that. And maybe if you found out how, maybe you could start selling and make a little cute business. Who knows? Business idea right there. Rug coasters. Or if you have a tufting gun, I'm sure you could make actual rug coasters from a tufting gun, which I don't think that's what this is. It feels like an actual carpet. It's kind of funny, but I love it. I love it. There's something reuse, recycle about it, which is fun. So another thing that we thrifted that just kind of shows sometimes you win. Sometimes you win. Is this lovely blanket behind me. Okay. This granny square crocheted blanket. My dog is sleeping on it right now. And then, I don't know. I don't want to get it. I really don't want to get it. So, I'm sorry that you can't see it that great. I have photos of it and I have it on my TikTok if you want to go investigate over there. But I thrifted this, and this was another find that's like sometimes you win, because I was on Facebook Marketplace, like you do sometimes, and sometimes I'll get these listings. I don't know if you guys have this in your town, but sometimes I get these listings that aren't really listings for one item per se, but they are like a photo of either an antique shop, a thrift shop, what is that called? An estate sale, anything like that. And you know, it's sort of like a photo of that, and then it's like, we're open from this time to this time on this day, just pop on in and see what's left, or see what you can find. And this was, I think, from an antique store, and the photo was very like kind of like aesthetic for the antique store, like, ooh, look at all the cute stuff we have. And then this was draped over a chair in the corner of the photo, and when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to get there like today. We have to get there today, or at least tomorrow. Like, we have to get there quick, because if people get wind of this photo, they're gonna be racing me to get this granny square quilt. It's funny, because in my brain, that's how it felt. It's like this, like a race to get this. And especially since during that time, it was like a couple years ago now, that everybody was obsessed with granny square stuff, myself included. I know, but everybody was obsessed with that, and so like I thought for sure, and it looked very well made, so I was like, okay, yeah, game on. Like, I gotta get there and get there quick. And usually the granny square stuff, at least during that time, went for kind of pricey. So I was like, oh boy, don't love that. Like, I gotta get there and make sure the price isn't too high and what have you. And make sure nobody else snags it, right? Like, and so of course I rushed there and I checked out the price, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's still there. It's still in the corner, as though there was a big part of me that thought that it wasn't going to be there anymore, truly. Even though I think the listing said that it had, like, they just posted it like the other day, like, so I don't know. But in my brain, I thought it was going to be gone. And it was still there, and I was checking it out, and it's this, like, to me, I would assume that it was made in the 70s, because the color of the base stitching is like this fatigue green, like, not chartreuse. It's far more earthy than chartreuse, but it is like a fatigue green. And then the fringe on the ends are orange, like a hunter orange, the same green as this, and then a darker avocado green. I'm like, yeah, but the rest of the squares, every single square is different. Every single square is different. Oh, what? So cool. Like, I sometimes just stare at this thing and admire it. It was stitched to perfection, crocheted to perfection, I should say. Like, very sturdy stitching. Almost no, like, flaws in the crochet. And it felt like a very tight crochet job. Heaven. And it ended up not being very expensive. I think, I don't actually remember the price, maybe $25, which, I mean, I don't know. It's a really good size, and it's granny square, and during the hype of granny square stuff, and from the 70s. To me, not bad. So I was just so happy that we got that. But sometimes you win. Sometimes you win in life, because I really thought that somebody was going to snag that. And yet again, another cottage type item. Granny square stuff during the hype, it was really hit or miss. It was like, is this going to be freakishly expensive? Like, why is it? I mean, I will say I respect the art. I do. I really can't criticize any hand knit piece or hand crocheted piece of clothing, or really a piece of anything, because I can't criticize the price of it, because like it was somebody's hard work. You know what I mean? Like somebody worked on this. So I really can't. Whatever the price is, I'm not saying that I can pay any price, but I'm not going to criticize it. You know what I mean? Because that's what somebody deemed worthy of their time. And for this one, it's vintage. So it's like, I don't know. But it is worth a lot to me, even though I didn't have to pay a whole lot for it. So yeah, I was just really happy with it. And I think today, now that the whole granny square craze is kind of died down, you probably can find something granny square for a relatively good price. You know, and it adds so much cottageness to your home. I really love it so much. What else? Oh yes, I have one other item that I'd like to talk about. And she's really the star of the show. But I'll be right back. All right, and I'm back. So I talked about this on my TikTok. I did the whole story, but it's okay. I can do it here, okay? Because I think it was a little while ago, so if you wanted to find it, it would maybe take you a minute. So the story goes a bit like the one you just heard with this, truly. But I was at an antique store, okay? And as you do, I love antique stores. It's like one of my all-time favorite pastimes, but it's really hard to go in there when you don't have like the extra cash sometimes, because it's like sometimes you'll find something that just captures your heart. And this story will prove, okay, that sometimes that happens. Something captures your heart and you're like, I don't have any on me. Like I can't just like browse in here when something could just be just so meant for me. So I try not to do that. I try not to just go in there to just browse, because sometimes your heart just knows what it wants. Okay, so I was in the thrift store, and I don't know if you know this, but I have a crazy quilt, which is a different story, which was kind of an accidental purchase in a way. And if you don't know what a crazy quilt is, look it up, because they are some of the most beautiful pieces of art. And I feel so lucky to have a crazy quilt. Like, you know, some people, they have, you know, maybe their moms or their great-grandmothers or great-great-grandmothers, you know, prized diamond ring or something. But for me, like, my prized possession is that crazy quilt. That and my antique Victorian velvet photo album. Oh, those things are my prized possession. I love them. Not that we should have any possessions that we hold, like, it's too high. I'm just saying, like, I do love those items so much. And I just feel so, like, wow, so blessed to have those in my life. And so when I walked past the shelf, and I saw her. I don't know what she is, okay? I'm guessing that she's an ornament. Just because, like, at first I thought this was her hair. Doesn't it kind of look like her hair? I pretend that it's her hair. But you know, it opens like this. So to me, it looks like she's an ornament, like a Christmas ornament. I also kind of thought that maybe she was a pincushion because she's got the thimble and the scissors and like the thread going around. But then I was like, maybe she's like a, because she's also an angel with these angel wings. So I was like, okay, maybe she's like kind of like in remembrance of Granny, you know, in remembrance of my grandma who loved to knit and sew. I don't really know what the deal is, but I love her. She reminds me of a crazy quilt, and her face is so zen. It's so zen, and I just love that about her. This part is velvet, the yellow or gold. Like, it's so soft still. Which, who knows? I mean, maybe this wasn't made that long ago, but to me, it looks like a crazy quilt. So I immediately thought, like, oh, she must be like from the 1900s, right? But she might not be. She might not be. I feel like you can buy these faces maybe somewhere, but you know, I don't really know. Maybe not. Maybe it is really from the 1900s. I wouldn't know. She's just magnificent, and even the back of her is quite an interesting piece of art. Now, I saw her on the shelf, and I was in amazement. Like, I truly had to stop and look at her, and I was like, wow, this is really something special. And these beads were quite amazing to me too. They add like a little glitter and shine to her. I've named her Wistamina. I don't know why, because it's kind of like Wilhelmina, but it's also wistful, I guess. But I kept being like trying to think of other names, and it was like, no, she's Wistamina. I don't know why, but it's just that name is, I guess, her name. That's what she's telling me. That's her name. So I really just like her so much. I was admiring her detail, and then I kind of walked away from her because I was kind of like, I don't know if you guys are like this, but for me, it's sometimes hard for me to buy things just for myself. Like, oh, I like this, and there's no purpose for it. Like, there's a purpose for her. It's the fact that she brings me joy. But, like, unless it's like a piece of clothing or something practical or something for the household, it's really hard for me to just buy something just for me. Really, truly. Even though a lot of my channel lately has been a bit of show and tell, all of these items are like things that I've like carefully thought about and been like, oh my gosh, like, that's just how I am and how I'm trying to get past. And this was definitely a purchase that helped me through that. That's for sure. And I do feel like I have gotten better about that over the past years. But that, you know, during this time, that's where my head was at, is like, no, like, I really shouldn't, I don't know, because it's like, you know, there's no practical purpose, but whatever, you know. And I walked past her, and then I just kept kind of circling back. Like, I would kind of look over here, and then kind of look over there, and then, oh, what do you know, I'm back at the counter, and I was looking at her again, and then I kind of walk away, and I would kind of bring her up to my mom, and just like, oh, isn't that cool? And like, it's like almost like kind of convincing myself, like, no, I don't, like, she's cool, but I don't need her, right? But then people started coming into the antique store, and some people walked past her, and I can't even tell you, my heart was like racing when people walked past her, because I was convinced in my head that when people see her, they're going to be like, this is an absolute gold mine. I'm taking her. And the thing is that she wasn't even very expensive, maybe $10, which maybe to some people that's like, oh my gosh, why would you spend $10? But then to some people that might be like, wow, that's great. I don't know, depends on who you are. Some things in the antique store are kind of all over the place with the pricing around where I live. It's like, why is this only this much when I know those are pretty pricey? And then why are these like, so I guess the whoever's selling thinks that these are just like the prized jewels, you know, but whatever. I almost like freaked out when I saw people were walking past her. And I think then it clicked to me, like, I can't leave her, because if somebody buys her, I'm gonna be so sad. And like, if I come here next time and she's not there, I'm gonna be so sad. Like, it just started to dawn on me, like, I need to just buy her. I need to. She's meant to be mine. And it was just so funny because like I kind of like weaseled my way over there, like kind of like on the down low, tried not to make myself like seen, just in case anybody was like, hey, give me that, you know. So I took her, and the whole time I had her with me, I was just kind of like nobody better fight me for her, you know. Not that anybody would, but in my brain, I really thought I was gonna have a fight on my hands. Like, I really thought that people would be like, oh wait, I was looking at that, I was gonna take that. Like, I don't know. So anyway, I ended up with her, and every time I show her to people, people don't really get it. They don't really get the appeal, but I do, okay? And that is what is important.